Hey everybody, welcome to the weekly news recap for the 8th to the 14th of April 2024. This week saw the launch of the Triple I initiative. This is a
strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Hey Mel, how you getting on? Bold strategy, Cotton. 14th months, Jesus. How you getting on, Mel? All right. So the Triple I initiative is something coming from developers behind things like Slay the Spire, Darkest Dungeon, Dead Cells, that kind of thing. And it's sort of a rebuttal, if you like, to the Jeff ads, basically, the Game Awards kind of thing, or the Summer Games Fest or whatever, which is pretty heavy on AAA, and it's a lot of fluff and a lot of nonsense and a lot of whatever else. So the Triple I initiative is meant to be a showcase primarily for indie games, and it is more or less back-to-back trailers and demo launches and that kind of thing. So you can watch the whole thing. It's actually quite short, again, as a rebuttal to kind of Jeff Keighley's 4-hour fucking thing. It's less than an hour, it's like 40 minutes or something like that, the whole thing. And it's just a big launch of a lot of different indie and independent games that are coming out later on this year. So we have Slay the Spire 2, the card game that a lot of people like. I don't really know much about it, so I'm just going to move past it. But yeah, it's coming into early access 2025. People who are really into Slay the Spire are pretty hyped about that. I don't know. Anyway, Risk of Rain 2, and again, another game I don't know a whole lot about, is getting a new update, introduces a new area, and also has a couple of alternative skins, primarily the prisoner character from Dead Cells. Shadows of Doubt, the sharpshooter assassin update. So Shadows of Doubt, I'll click into this one because I want to talk about Shadows of Doubt for a minute. So Shadows of Doubt is a full screen, please. Thank you. Is a procedurally generated detective game, or immersive sim game if you prefer. So it's a first-person sort of whodunit kind of thing, but the cases are all procedurally generated. The city's procedurally generated. All the items and what have you are all there. It's been early access for a year or so, maybe a little bit longer. This update in particular is bringing a new type of crime, which is like the assassin, or the sniper, if you like, who takes people out from, far away, and you need to sort of track back, who are they trying to kill, where did they get the weapon, all that kind of stuff. And there's lots of different ways you can go about it in Shadows of Doubt. You can go the more violent route, you can go the more stealth route, and so on. And everything, as I said, is procedurally generated. It's really interesting. On top of the announcement for the new update is that it's also getting a console release. So it's going to be coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, which is pretty good, because it doesn't have controller support as far as I'm aware on PC right now, and I do find it a bit clunky to play with keyboard and mouse. I'm not a keyboard and mouse person. I'm just gonna have to come out and say that, because I just can't fucking use them properly. Not for anything that requires, speed or dexterity. It's like a management game or something. I have no problem with it, but like first-person shooters and that kind of thing, I always over-aim or overcompensate or whatever. Anyway, I thought that was a pretty cool game. So it is, as I said, it's been in early access for a while now, but it is also going to be coming to consoles eventually, so I'm looking forward to playing more of that. Also in the showcase, Gestalt, Steam, and Cylinder. So this is, as far as I'm aware, it's a new game, because I've never heard of it before, at least. It is a 16-bit and 32-bit side-scrolling Metroidvania, Castlevania type thing. As we're well aware of on this channel, I like Metroidvania. So yeah, I'm gonna have to be playing this. It's done. They did it already. It's a pixel art character that runs to the right. Cool, done, sorted. I'll play it. Looks like it's going for a steampunk thing. The main character, I believe, is accompanied by some companions every now and then, but it is for the most part a Castlevania type thing, or a Metroid type thing, if you prefer. But it does have Like, it does have cowboys, but then it also has knights, and then has some futuristic stuff. So, you know, it's got some weird things going with it. Anyway, I believe it is due at the end of May, 21st of May. As you'll see, Gestalt, Steam, and Cylinder. Not an early access thing. Everything else up until now, I think, has had an early access thing, but this is just straight up. They're just going to release it. Vampire Survivors Operation Guns DLC. Yeah, this is not the crossover I thought they would have gone with Konami, because there's a pretty obvious one Vampire Survivors probably should have gone with. Vampires, Castlevania, no. To that crossover with Konami, no. The Contra is what they went with. Okay. Fair enough. Anyway, Contra is going to be making its way to Vampire Survivors. Brings guns. It's just new skins and new abilities and stuff like that on top of a game that's already pretty good. On top of that, Vampire Survivors is also going to be coming to PlayStation, so PS5, I think at the beginning of May with this update. I think it's also coming to PlayStation 5. Undermine 2 is another kind of side-scrolling action RPG type thing. I believe this time around you can play as 2 different characters as opposed to the first one, where it's just a solo character. But again, I don't know a whole lot about it. What the Car, I think, is a follow-up to What the Golf. If you're not familiar, What the Golf was essentially... what if golf was even more nonsensical than it was originally? So it's a lot of stupid things here. It's like, it's a car, technically, but not really. Because it's got a lot of stupid shit going on to it. What the Golf was kind of the same. And that the levels would all get progressively less golf-like. I think at the beginning there's things like, you know, instead of you trying to knock the ball into the hole, you start knocking hole around the screen to try to catch the ball and stuff like that, and it would just get progressively stupider. It would set you up with a scenario where you're like, okay, this makes sense, and then as soon as you interact with it, it's something completely different. And What the Car, I think, is going along much the same shenanigans. It's dumb, but so was What the Golf, and it was also very funny, so I can imagine What the Car will be much the same. 5th of September, release date for that one. Norland is a medieval Civ, Age of Empires type thing. Medieval Kingdom Sim Norland will be out in early access, 16th of May. Darkest Dungeon 2 is getting a new mode, which is called Kingdom Mode, or Kingdoms Mode, possibly. So, Darkest Dungeon 2, if you're not familiar, the original Darkest Dungeon had you sitting on the grounds of a large estate, and your company would venture out into various dungeons, get horribly massacred usually, or come back with PTSD or something terrible. Anyway, chances are they didn't survive it for the most part. Darkest Dungeon 2, the sequel to that, was that somehow you did manage to overcome all of the issues in Darkest Dungeon, but it, as is typical with the game, bad ending, and now you had to, you know, make a mad dash to escape from the estate before the encroaching evil catches up on you, and that was the kind of deal with Darkest Dungeon 2. Kingdoms Mode kind of goes back to the first game. You're now kind of responsible for like a whole area, as you sort of gradually try to work your way out and sort of settle some of the areas and that kind of thing. And you have different factions that are obviously trying to undo that. So it's kind of a weird mix of the first game and the second game. We'll see how it plays out, because I think a lot of people who were fans of the first game were a little frustrated with the second game because it didn't have the same sort of feeling of you getting, you know, you building up like a base or like a hub world kind of thing. It was more of a roguelike. Now, the first game is also kind of a roguelike, sorta. But I guess the second one, it just seemed like far more obvious that it was, and I'm not sure people really enjoyed it. I haven't played the second one myself, so I'm not sure. But I did really like the first one, even if I was, and am still, very, very bad at it. Rakukaki is... so this was just a CG trailer. There's no gameplay in it. It does have a dog, though, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, let's skip ahead to the actual trailer. So what I'm getting from this is Jet Set Radio, basically. So it is you're sitting in a city that is taken over by a corporation. Everything is sort of bland and fascist, more or less. And you're playing a character who's bringing color and life back to the city and stuff like that. It is, very much. It does very much feel like it's going to be going for a Jet Set Radio type thing, but again, we haven't seen gameplay. It's characterized as some kind of like a high-speed platformer type thing. So again, that does sound a bit like Jet Set Radio. I figured that's where they're going with it. The art style looks pretty cool. If they can carry that through into the main game itself, it should be at least a very pretty game. See how well it plays out. Coming summer 2024. So soon enough. Again, not an early access thing. That'll be just out. Raven's Watch is getting a new update, and I believe this is the last part of the Raven's Watch game, which is currently in early access. So this update, and then I think a couple of smaller ones to sort of finalize things, will be effectively 1.0 for Raven's Watch. Raven's Watch is kind of a Diablo clone, but think like Aesop's Fables and grim fairy tale characters. So like Pied Piper, Red Riding Hood. I think Aladdin is in there at some point. Elsa, who's not called Elsa for obvious reasons, but those kind of characters. You're playing as them. Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf are merged into the same character, and she just transforms into the wolf, which is pretty typical, really, when they adapt that fable to video games. It looks interesting, but I've heard not great things about it, so maybe with the 1.0, things might have been firmed up a bit better. The Last Spell, Dwarves of Runeberg, is, I think, some kind of tower defense type thing. It's tactical RPG. It's okay. It looks like a tower defense game. Maybe it isn't. Cat Quest 3. I was unfamiliar with Cat Quest 1 and 2, but okay. There's some ghosts. There's some pirates. Gonna move on because I don't really know a whole lot about it. Brotato, Abyssal Terrors. The Brotato game continues to be getting more and more DLC. It's also going to be getting couch co-op at some point this year. There was no date given. The Old World Behind the Throne expansion. The Old World, again, is another Civilization type thing. It's getting a new expansion. Not really into those kind of nation management type games. But yeah, 28th of May, you'll be seeing that. Pal World is getting PvP multiplayer. So it's getting an arena mode. So think Pokemon Stadium kind of thing. But in Pal World, your actual player character also takes part in combat with guns. As we're well aware, Pal World is Pokemon with guns, right? So Pokemon Stadium becomes Pal World Arena with guns. So you have 3 not Pokemon pals, 3 pals, I guess, on one team, and your character versus another team of an NPC a player and 3 of their pals fighting in combat. Okay. 33 Immortals got a bit more of a beta showcase. So this will have its closed beta on the 24th of May. I don't think I qualified for it because I would have heard about it by now, I think. But anyway, I didn't get in. 33 Immortals is sort of a MMO hack and slash hybrid kind of thing. So you jump into a dungeon with 32 other players and proceed to kind of fight in these kind of bullet hell, enter the gungeon, Diablo type combat. And engage with bosses in sort of like MMO kind of mechanics, as you can see, like screen clearing moves from the boss and having to avoid certain setups and that kind of thing. And just large scale combat with 32 other people. And if you can manage to get your way all the way to the boss, then you have a big showdown. 33 of you versus the one big boss enemy at the end. Does it show the actual big boss? It does, but I've probably skipped it now at this point. Yeah, I think it's back here somewhere. whatever. It's whatever. Anyway, there'll be a beta at the end of May. You can still apply for it, I think, over on EA's an EA portal somewhere for it, because it is technically, I think EA are helping publishing it or something. Wizard of Legend 2 is again a sequel to Wizard of Legend, as you might imagine. It's a kind of roguelike Magicka type thing. So the Magicka series is kind of a top-down CRPG thing, where you would be able to combine a lot of different elements to make different spells. And it's actually very customizable. There's a lot of different combos you can come up with. So much so that I honestly felt a bit overwhelmed playing it, and just was like, you know what, this is too complicated. I'm just not gonna play that. I'm gonna move on. Anyway, Wizard of Legend 2 is sort of similar, but I think your progression is a little bit different. You know, you're not having to manage a whole party of wizards. It's just the one character that can do a couple of different things. Lazara the Summit Kingdom is a town management type thing, but your town is, or city or whatever, is at the top of a mountain or near the top of a mountain, so you have to deal with things like, you know, wind chill and freezing temperatures and avalanches and that kind of thing. But it is a surprise release, so it's out now if you wanted to play it. It launched into early access on Thursday, I think. So the other game that obviously it makes sense that if you're going to do a crossover with Konami, you would do Castlevania. Actually did do Castlevania, so V Rising is getting a Castlevania DLC. And again, is also coming to consoles. So it'll be out at the beginning of May, 8th of May, V Rising Legacy of Castlevania, as well as cosmetics and a couple of other things. You'll also be able to fight, I think it's Simon Belmont, is a secret boss character. And from the video footage, he looks like he's going to be a pretty tough fight. Never Alone 2, as imagine, is a sequel to Never Alone. This was a kind of... It's kind of a walking sim, I guess. It's a bit like Spirit of the North or Journey or something like that. You're one character, an indigenous child who's accompanied by an Arctic fox, and you have to go from point A to point B. And it's very pretty and very meditative and contemplative and that kind of thing. Which is more of that is not a bad thing. And then this had been rumored for a while that Evil Empire, the people behind Dead Cells, are working on the next Prince of Persia. So they're making a roguelite version of the Prince of Persia games called The Rogue Prince of Persia. It's a pretty cool title. A lot of this trailer is this pre-rendered cartoon animation kind of thing, which is pretty cool. I'm not mad about the prince's design. I think he's a little too simple, honestly. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead because there's a pretty smooth transition where they go from the animation into gameplay, and I just want to catch that. You know, and it's a pretty smooth... I thought that was a pretty smooth transition from the animation right into gameplay. Very fluid character animations. You know, as you would expect from a Prince of Persia type thing, there's a lot of acrobatics. As I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Prince's design, but I guess that can change. It is going to be an early access thing. It's just something about, without the belts, he just has a very simple and he has a very simple design, and a lot of his design features that kind of stand out are very small. So from a distance, you can't really see them, I guess, is the issue I have. He just seems very... Compare it to the designs for every other Prince of Persia, except maybe the originals. They all have very outlandish kind of designs, and he just... I don't know. I don't like it. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Early access May 14th, so pretty soon. Anyway, that was the Triple I initiative. I think it's a pretty good start for them. Pretty good first showing. It was quite zippy. It didn't take itself particularly seriously. There were some interjections every now and then, you know, to tell jokes and things like that. There were no actual people involved. There were no asides for like advertisements and stuff like that. It was all done either through text or just here's a new trailer kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's a good start for them, and hopefully they can continue to keep that going. Anyway, moving on. So outside of the AAA initiative, there were some other updates this week. Star Wars Outlaws has a new trailer. It's also getting a release date some stage in August. Wait till the end of the trailer because I forget when exactly it is. This is showing the main antagonist of the game, which is the head of a new crime syndicate, who's trying to get all the other crime syndicates to kind of band together now that the Empire are busy dealing with the rebellion. They're not paying as much attention to the underworld of Star Wars and what have you. I don't know what it is about the main character, but it feels like either her hair is a bit strange or her face just doesn't emote or something like that, but this feels like there's something off about that character model. Whereas everyone else seems kind of fine? Maybe? I think everyone has a sort of a stiff Botox face, but it seems like the main character has more of one. The game is set between Empire and Return of the Jedi, as you can see, because Han Solo is in Carbonite there. So that is when the game is set. I don't think it's ever stated exactly how long that is. It's a year or something, I think. Anyway, the whole deal is you're trying to get out from under a debt from that main guy that I mentioned at the beginning, and you're doing various heists to sort of build up enough of a repertoire to go on one big heist, and effectively steal all of that guy's money in one go. Why he's keeping all his money in one place, I don't know, but here we are. And that's kind of the deal with the game. We'll have more to say about Star Wars Outlaws later on in the stream because there's some shit. There's some shit going on with it. Anyway, moving on. The free Epic game this week is Ghost Runner, which is a first-person cyber ninja thing. So think Mirror's Edge, but you have a katana. That's kind of the deal with it. It is very fast-paced and very punishing. Is very much a one-hit kill kind of thing. You can kill enemies in one hit for the most part, but they can kill you in one hit as well. So it does get a little frustrating after a while. But if you can get into the zone with it, it's a fun time. And I think it's been an Epic free game before because, well, it must have been because I wasn't able to add it to my library because it was already there. So it must have already been a free one. Anyway, moving on. Monthly games, so the PlayStation Plus catalog is getting at a refresh. So this is the PlayStation Plus extra and premium tiers. Same, you got it before. Okay, I think it must have been in the Epic Games free section beforehand. Okay, Animal Well. I think this is a day one launch. Technically, it's not part of the April list because you can see here it's actually coming in the May 9th. So you'll be able to play it before the next refresh is basically what we're looking at. Planning a Dave the Diver stream, nice. So Animal Well it's kind of an interesting one. So it's kind of it's like a large dungeon of puzzle rooms, if you like. And it has a bit of a Metroid-y thing, Metroidvania type thing, but not really. It's sort of like you can progress in a sort of non-linear fashion. You can go into this room and solve that puzzle, go to the next room and so on. Or if you get stumped on a puzzle, you can work your way back and go in a different direction and start working your way through those puzzles instead. But there's a lot of like weird shit going on in the Animal Well. It's hard. I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe how the game plays. Obviously, it hasn't come out yet, so we don't really know what it's like. But it's done as a sort of a combat-free Metroidvania, so it is entirely puzzle-based kind of thing. Anyway, Tales of Kanzera Zao, we played as part of the latest Steam Next Fest. It's another Metroidvania type thing. This one that very much does have combat. That is focused more on a kind of African, future Africa kind of vibe to it. I thought it was really good. On the other hand, I did get stuck at one spot in the demo. I was like, I don't know how to proceed. So, yeah, hopefully that won't be the case when the game actually comes out. Again, this one won't be there right when the refresh happens. It'll be the April 23rd, just the week after instead. Dave the Diver, as Melvin pointed out, is coming to PlayStation and is launching day one on the PlayStation Plus catalog. So if you have PlayStation Plus Extra, you won't have to pay anything extra to get Dave the Diver. It's a adventure RPG about deep sea exploration and also running a sushi restaurant at the same time. So you do your deep sea exploration and collect some fish while you're at it. catch fish. That's what people usually say. Catch some fish while you're at it. Bring it back, sell it, get some more money to fund your expeditions to go deeper into the ocean and that kind of thing. Oddballers is effectively a like party game, battle royale type thing, but dodgeball. That's kind of it. It's fun if you have a couple of people over to play with, I suppose. Construction Simulator is probably what it sounds like. Tackle intriguing projects of different sizes and requirements, increase your income, and so on. It's a job game. Construction sim. The Crew 2. Okay, we'll have something to say about The Crew 1 later on, but The Crew 2 is a racing game from Ubisoft where you can drive across, I think it's Northwest America. It's like a condensed version of Northwestern America, but you can drive from city to city kind of thing. It's not exactly one-to-one, but it's that kind of idea of being able to just drive across a giant map with up to however many of your friends that you happen to have. Raji in Ancient Epic is a isometric Metroidvania type thing, but focused a little bit more on Hindu and Indian mythology and folklore. When I played it originally, I felt it was a bit slow and a bit sluggish to respond, but that on the one hand, I was playing that on the Switch, so it's possible that PS5, Xbox Series, whatever, it behaves a little bit better, PC, what have you. This has been out for a while though, because I already own it. I think it was a PlayStation Plus game at some point as well. Lego Ninjago, the movie, the video game. I think you know what you're getting with Lego games at this point. We can probably just move on. Nur Play With Your Food is sort of just it's like a weird sandbox, just have fun type thing. You know, there's no actual gameplay element to it as far as I know. They just give you some interesting setups and you can just sort of play with the food that's in the areas. Rediscover the joy of play in this unique foodie fantasy. I don't think there's any actual overarching story or whatever. You just mess around with assets in a sandbox. Deliver Us Mars, we did a full Let's Play, actually, of Deliver Us Mars on the channel, if you want to check it out, or just play the game yourself now at this point. Sequel to the award-winning Deliver Us the Moon, also, full Let's Play of that over on the channel, because I quite like both of them. So Deliver Us Mars posits that in the future, climate change becomes a real issue, even more so than it is now. Earth basically has no energy anymore, or has very little energy, and is using kind of what it has left to send a team of astronauts to Mars to take back a bunch of technology that was stolen from Earth in the first game. So you're going to Mars, because that's where they fucked off to see, hey, well, why'd you steal all their shit? And why didn't you come back? And, you know, we're actually really badly off now. Could you come back now? And they're like, no. Anyway, turns out it's your dad too, so, you know, you have that issue on top of it as well. The hair was so weird, and the character models were not great, it's true. They got around it in the first game because everyone was in an astronaut suit or were holograms. So they didn't really have to worry about skin textures and hair and stuff like that. In the second game, though, they do have flashbacks to Earth, and, you know, people take their helmets off and everything to talk, so they tried, but the character models do not look great. They really don't. If you can get past that, it's a good story. I think it was anyway. But yes, the character models were not good. Lego Marvel's Avengers, again, it's a Lego game. You know what it is. Miasma Chronicles is a tactical RPG that is set in a Western punk US. So it's post-apocalypse kind of thing, but everything's turned into a Wild West, but also there's robots kind of thing. I've seen mixed reviews on this. Some people thought it was really good. Some people thought it was absolutely terrible. There doesn't seem to be it's okay in between. It just seems to be it's either very good or very bad. So I don't know. That's it. At least you can just check it out for no additional cost anyway. Stray Blade, I keep thinking is Stellar Blade, and it's not. But anyway, Stray Blade, I think it's a bit like Biomutant. I'm not sure. Prove yourself in this action adventure, master intense combat, exploring ancient ruins. It sounds like a fairly by the numbers action adventure kind of thing. Anyway, moving on to the premium tier, that is, but remember, it's the most expensive one. You would imagine you'd get some better stuff on it, but it doesn't even warrant art. It's not even any like art, no blurb about what the game is, anything like that. They really are just phoning it in at this point. Anyway, in the PlayStation Premium Classics side, because there is no other, I don't know why they even bother adding Classics at this point, because that's all that ever ends up in PlayStation Premium. Anyway, Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare, the original PlayStation version. So this is the sequel to Alone in the Dark 1, 2, and 3. It's okay. it's not amazing, but it's all right. And obviously, yes, they definitely timed this well now that the new Alone in the Dark has been out for a month. Should probably have added this last month, but anyway. Star Wars Rebel Assault 2: The Hidden Empire is actually a very good flight sim Star Wars game. Dogfighting game. And the original Medieval has been available, I think, on PlayStation Plus for a good while now, and they've, I don't know, just managed to get around to adding it to the catalog. But yeah, it's been available for quite some time, and there's a remake of it, and there's a PlayStation Plus version of it, and there was a remaster at some point as well. So other games can be added to that catalog, Sony, whenever you feel like it. Anyway, moving on. Those are some of the games you can play soon, and some of them are in early access, so you can play them right now. But what if you wanted to play something else? Right now, you can play Children of the Sun, which again we played during the latest Steam Next Fest. It is a sniper puzzle type game. So the idea with Children of the Sun is you get one bullet, one level, and you need to kill everybody in one shot. So how do you position yourself so that you can manage to hit everybody in one go? It's not as simple as it sounds. Because you have certain abilities with your bullet that you can curve it, you can redirect it, you can... No, that's it. You can curve it and you can redirect it, and I think you can change its spawn point or something else weird like that. And puzzles get more and more difficult over time. If you kill people in the wrong order, you can end up having reinforcements arriving. You need to aim for specific spots on enemies to be able to do certain things with the bullet. It does become really, really tricky later on in the game. Actually, it's like fairly quickly into the game, it does start to become complicated. Not complicated, complex, we'll say. Still makes sense, you still kind of know what you're supposed to do, but figuring out how exactly to do it can get a little bit tricky. I thought it was really good. And also you can use birds to redirect your bullet, which I found out right at the end of the level. I was like, how the fuck do I do this level? And it's like, and I just thought for fun, because I was getting frustrated, I'm just going to shoot this bird instead. And as they do in the trailer as well. And sorry, RIP bird, but it did actually help me complete the level. So, because you can shoot the bird and then rotate down and then shoot somebody else. It was quite helpful. Anyway, that's Children of the Sun. And Botany Manor. I don't remember if I played this during Next Fest or not. Sorry, I did play it during a Next Fest. I don't remember if I streamed it or not. Anyway, Botany Manor is a first-person puzzle type game that is focused mostly around plants, and it's trying to get certain plants to grow to fulfill certain like puzzle requirements. Not all of the plants are actual IRL real plants. A lot of them are fictional, made up entirely for the game, and they have very strange, eccentric ways to get them to grow. Like one of them will only grow when there's a flash of lightning, and obviously there's no storm going anytime soon, so you need to figure out how do I, simulate a flash of lightning, and it turns out you need a flash bulb from an old-timey camera. And that's how you get it to grow and stuff like that. Obviously, there is no plant in the real world that only grows when there's a flash of lightning, otherwise that would be a very evolutionarily problematic life cycle for that plant. Anyway, Botany Manor is available on everything except PlayStation. Don't know why. It's honestly a little annoying, because it doesn't run great on the Steam Deck, so that's a bit frustrating. And I don't want to play it on the Switch. Anyway, I might have to end up playing it on the Switch, because I don't have an Xbox either. Moving on. Broken Roads. We talked a little bit about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe. So Broken Roads is a CRPG that is set in a post-apocalypse Australia. You can see it has these, usual narrative trees and that kind of thing. What's interesting here, and you can kind of see it in some of the... I'm just going to pause it here. So down here on the bottom right, this is kind of the interesting gimmick that the game has that I'm kind of interesting to see how it plays out. This is your kind of alignment chart. So it's not the typical alignment of like good, evil, or stuff like that. It's more things like... it's things like authoritative or like liberal or, fascist, I suppose, or something. It's into different trees, and depending on choices you make, you get pulled into all these different trajectories on that chart, and you can only make responses based on the kind of the yellow triangle, if you like. So you can't be like all nice and nicey nice with one person and then be super evil guy with the next person and stuff like that. It's meant to sort of conform to the choices you've made up to that point. So your character has a sort of cohesion to them. How it plays out, I don't know. Reviews are a little mixed on it. A lot of that, although, I think comes down to the combat, because it's a little unfair from what I've seen. Anyway, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that mechanic works out, but I need to wait to see how the reviews are going to pan out on it as well. Anyway, unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games. Video game industry. So, EA adds Motive Studio to Battlefield development team. Motive will continue working on its Iron Man project, general manager confirms. So, why is this in industry bullshit? Because this seems like a pretty standard thing to do. The issue and why it's industry bullshit is because this is now the 4th studio that EA have put onto Battlefield instead. So EA's Motive Studio is set to work on the next Battlefield game alongside DICE, Criterion, and Ripple Effect. And up until now, Riptide Games were also working on Battlefield, but they were shut down 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. That's 4 studios now they have working on Battlefield. There is another publisher, developer that does this, that has multiple studios all working on the one franchise, and that's Activision. It has a great number of its studios and developers all working on Call of Duty. Everyone's in the Call of Duty salt mines, and it sure looks like EA are planning to do the same thing with Battlefield. They're going to put a lot of their studios in the Battlefield salt mines instead. So this is the studio behind EA Motive, and the studio behind Star Wars Squadron, which is a really good dogfight Star Wars game, and the recent Dead Space remake, which was a really good remake of Dead Space, which unfortunately didn't sell that great. There were rumors that EA Motive were working on Dead Space 2 and have been told to stop working on that and now go back to go work on Battlefield instead. There's been mixed reports on that. What it sounds like is they had some stuff in previs concepting for what was either going to be Dead Space 2 remake or a different Dead Space. But it was still fairly early in development, and I don't think they ever had the green light on it. It was just stuff they were bringing to the studio, so it's sort of mixed on what the actual story is there. But it doesn't matter because they're not working on it anyway. They're going to be working on Battlefield. Yay. That's a great use of a different developer. You know what? They keep saying that like investors and studios and what have you are risk averse now. You know? They don't want to take risky ventures and invest in things that they're not 100% certain on. And it's like, why does that mean put all of your eggs in one basket? Because it sure sounds like they're banking on Battlefield now. You know, Activision is very much propped up by Call of Duty. If it ever has a bad year, they're fucked. Because they don't have anything else. There's no Crash Bandicoot on the way. There's no Spyro the Dragon on the way, you know. There's none of those any other Activision properties. They are very much propped up by Call of Duty. And if it does fail, if they have a bad year, they're pretty much relying on Blizzard at that point to bring in the money, or, you know, Big Daddy Microsoft now at this point, since Microsoft has acquired them. Ubisoft, for a lot of it, are also in the same boat. They have a lot of their studios working on Assassin's Creed, various Assassin's Creed projects that are still a fair ways off. yes, they have Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar, the Avatar game or whatever. I don't know how well that did financially. At least they're diversifying a little bit. EA, it sure sounds like aren't. It sure sounds like they're making the same mistake they made years ago, where they just became the FIFA studio and that's all they had. And then they pivoted and tried to do some different things, and that's where we got Mirror's Edge and Dead Space from. And then they just shit-canned Mirror's Edge and absolutely ruined Dead Space with Dead Space 3, and then we didn't have Dead Space for a very long time. Then we had Dead Space Remake, which was very good. Critically, commercially, it didn't do great. Don't know why. Maybe it was marketed well enough, or too expensive. It was like €80 or something like that for a remake. I don't know. Maybe people just saw it as a texture upgrade or something like that. Anyway, the point is, EA took that news and said, you know what, we're just going to focus on not FIFA, EA Football Club. It's not called FIFA anymore, even though it definitely is FIFA, and Battlefield. And Battlefield hasn't been doing great. But I guess this is their attempt to, I don't know, reinvigorate it or whatever. Having Criterion and EA Motive working on Battlefield seems like a mistake. Like, Criterion are the Burnout people. They make racing games. That's what they're good at. Let them do that. They're very good at it. Let them keep being very good at it. EA Motive are a bit... They're a very broad team. They can work on a lot of different things. As you can see, they have Star Wars Squadron and Dead Space, which are two very different games. I don't know. I'm more disappointed that there isn't a Dead Space 2. Or Dead Space 2 remake, I guess. That's what I'm more disappointed on, because I was kind of hoping they'd work their way up to do a Dead Space 3 remake and fix it, and then we could have a long-running franchise then of Resident Evil in space. That's kind of what I really want. We're gonna have to wait for Resident Evil 10, where they go to space, I guess, instead. Anyway, moving on. Alright, we were talking about The Crew 2 earlier. What happened to The Crew 1? Well, Ubisoft shat all over it. Ubisoft reportedly revoking The Crew from owners' libraries following server shutdown. You no longer have access to this game. Why not check out the store to pursue your adventures? Why not give me back the thing I bought, shithead? Anyway, so earlier, the end of March, Ubisoft shut down the servers responsible for The Crew, the racing game from Ubisoft. And since The Crew is an online-only game, that basically meant you can't play it. There's no private server option. There's no offline single-player opportunity for it. It's a completely online game. So there's no way to play it, even if you did own the software or what have you, or the license, as it turns out. Due to the game's always online nature, all single-player content would cease to be available too. So that is its own bullshit thing on games that require an always online connection, not having a, sunsetting update to allow you to play it offline. When you're done with hosting it, you should allow for either private hosting or an offline thing. Ubisoft just decided, you know what, we're not making money anymore, so fuck you. That's what they decided. And not only that, they've also revoked the license from anyone who has bought it. So if you've bought it on Uplay, or whatever the fuck the Ubisoft shop is called now, the game you will find is now in an inactive... what's it called? I don't see it there now. There's a section now in the shop basically called inactive game or inactive product or something like that. And that's where you'll find The Crew. If you try to launch it, it'll just be told no, nothing will work. Ubisoft has seemingly started revoking owners' licenses earlier this week too, making the game impossible to download and install. So you've already bought it. And you assume you've bought the game, right? No, you gotta read the terms of the service. The end user license, you bought a license to access the game. And that has expired arbitrarily because we said so. Go talk to your local consumer advocate who will not listen to you and does not give a shit. Anyway, you no longer have access to this game. Why not check the store to pursue your adventures is the message you're effectively given. I don't want to play other game. I want to play this game. I don't want to play or buy The Crew 2, which is effectively just The Crew 1 again, but you're making us buy it again. That's if you try to go through the Ubi Play Store thing. If you try to go through Steam, Steam will request a game key. The game never came with a key, so that's the end of that. You're not getting anywhere there. If you try to launch it just directly from the executable, the game will just launch in demo mode. You won't have access to any of the full version of the game. So this has been met with obvious scorn and anger from the Crew community in general. This is really abhorrent behavior that needs to stop being legal. I would question, I don't think it actually is legal, but it's just never been challenged. Anyway, saddest and the most ruthless decision I've ever seen in gaming history. This is the kind of the first time I've seen the license be revoked entirely. Just the game has just been nuked completely. Like, I've seen plenty of games that were always online just be completely unplayable, but you still technically had access to it. And potentially down the line, modders could figure out how to do a private server for it or something like that. But they're just completely removing that option altogether. They're not open sourcing it. They're not allowing for private server. They're not allowing for a single player offline mode. Not that it's just game's just gone. Just memory hold forever, which obviously from a games preservation standpoint, not great. You know, if you want to go back 20 years from now to play The Crew, you just can't. It's just not playable. What does that say for Ubisoft's games coming forward, you know? This is going to be an issue in a few years for people who are like, I'm really nostalgic for Fortnite, but I can't play it anymore because the servers are offline. Or I'm really nostalgic for Roblox, but I can't play it anymore because they were sued into oblivion for sweatshop child development. That kind of thing. These sort of online service type games, I don't think they have an idea or a plan for when they are inevitably having to be sunset or stopped service entirely, when they need to shut down their servers and so on. How is the game going to be playable from then on? Is it going to be playable from then on? All the money you put into your cosmetics and subscriptions and all that shit. What happens to all that? And you know the answer, obviously, but that shouldn't be the answer. There should be some kind of consumer advocacy to stop that, but even after all of that, there should be a preservation thing there. This doesn't happen with film. Or at least it doesn't happen with film anymore. It used to, certainly, but it doesn't happen anymore. This doesn't happen with TV. This doesn't happen with music. That's why I'm buying more and more in GOG. GOG is the way to go, but these games that are kind of live servicey type things, it doesn't really matter where you buy it, because it still relies on their servers being up. I don't know how to deal with that without... you kind of do have to get actual government, national bodies involved to deal with that kind of thing. Or just stop buying from them, I guess, is the other way. But, like, this used to be an issue in, we'll say, 40s, 50s in cinema, where they would get the film out, get it into theaters, and then pretty much forget about it. And you would find just hundreds of films that are just completely unrecoverable. You can't see them anymore. You can't watch them anymore. Until US Library of Congress started recording all of them. You have to send a copy to them. There's a whole library now of every film ever made, every book ever written, every TV show, every music, all of it. All catalogued, all archived. We don't have that for video games. There is no body set up to preserve interactive software. It doesn't exist. If I want to go back and watch The X-Files, right, I can get the box set of it, or I could torrent it illegally, but it's accessible is my point. If I want to go back and watch, Metropolis, the first sci-fi film, I can. It's fairly easily to find. If I want to go back and play, anything that isn't a big name, anything that isn't Super Mario Brothers, anything that isn't effectively a Nintendo first party, I'm gonna struggle. I'm gonna struggle to find something that's made by a developer that doesn't exist anymore, and the IP isn't owned by anybody, and it's just sort of out there, and good luck if you can find it. There's no way to just play it. Even if I had to buy it, like I'd be spending a shit ton of money. My point is, we don't have a agreed upon solution that every country agrees to do, like to just keep an archive of our history and our art and stuff like that. We just don't have it. Don't buy much online. Yes, that's also true. Yeah. To be fair, I don't really either, but there are a few that are entirely reliant on an online server that I do play. Anyway, we do have the Stop Killing Games initiative that we talked about last week, which was basically about the crew in the first place and how, Ubisoft were just not communicating or willing to negotiate with the player base, the community base, to make a private server available or anything like that. That's what the Stop Games initiative is. If you want to check it out yourselves, established by Ross Scott, who's a YouTuber, usually around the crew himself, just started this thing to try to get national governing bodies involved. But as I said last week, they're full of people who don't care. They're full of people who still think video games are toys for children. They're that generation that didn't grow up with them. So they only saw their kids grow up with them. So that's how they view them. We're going to be waiting for generational shift, basically, before we'll see any kind of movement on that. And before that happens, we're going to lose a lot of games. Anyway, moving on. Speaking about Ubisoft and their always internet stuff, their new Star Wars game requires an internet connection to install. So again, the question is, 20 years from now, if I want to play Star Wars Outlaws and the servers aren't there anymore, how do I play it? We don't know. Is that going to be an issue? Are they going to do anything when it inevitably is taken down from their servers? Who knows? Ubisoft and Massive's upcoming open world Star Wars Outlaws will require players to be connected to the internet to install the game, even if they bought a physical copy of it. So basically, all of the data you need to play the game isn't on the disc. The disc is either, which you've seen in a lot of games recently, is either a glorified installer. They have a Blu-ray disc that can store up to 8 gigabytes or something. No, 8 gigabytes? That's not right. Blu-rays can store a shit ton of data, basically. And all they have on it is a very small installer. Massive waste of a Blu-ray disc. Anyway, whether that's what Star Wars Outlaws is going for or not, I don't know. But the point is, you will need to download something additional before you can play it. It's not a key or anything like that. It's like proper assets, character models, music, that kind of stuff. All of that stuff that you need to play the game isn't on the disc. Once again, this show's publishers aren't all that concerned with preserving their video games. This is from Kotaku's Zach Schwiesen, who very much makes the point I am making, is like, what happens 15, 20 years from now when you want to play Star Wars Outlaws again and find that Ubisoft have taken down the servers like they did with the crew, and now you can't even install the game anymore because it's missing data. Do they have a plan for that? I don't know. Their plan is no. Their plan is we're not making money off it anymore, so fuck you. That's their plan. Anyway, I don't think there was anything else to that article other than internet required to install the game. Now, internet not required to play the game. There's that. It's not an always online game, but you still need an internet connection to install the whole thing. Which obviously begs the question, what happens in X number of years when servers are going down? Anyway, moving on. Alright, State of Decay producers Possibility Space Studio has reportedly shut down for a very, very stupid reason. So Possibility Space was founded by the State of Decay producer Jeff Strain. Jeff Strain has founded a lot of studios over the years. Lots of them. Too many, I would argue. But anyway, Strain is blaming the closure on confidential leaks by employees. Now, that is a very silly reason to shut the whole company down unless the leaks are, like, criminally damaging. They don't sound like they are, but I guess. But also, your employees don't really leak these kind of things unless they're, displeased with what's happening in the studio. So there might be that element to it as well. Anyway, so the studio was founded with Jane Ung, lead environment artist on Campo Santo's Firewatch. decent walking sim, Half-Life Alyx, which is an amazing VR game. Had joined the studio as visual director alongside Liz England, who was lead designer on Watch Dogs Legion, which again, visually is quite appealing. And was also designer at Sunset Overdrive, again, visually very nice. Not a great game, but visually very impressive. Beyond those early hints, no further word was given on what the project was actually going to be, and now it turns out we'll probably never know. A number of studio employees have taken to social media to reveal that they and all of their co-workers have been laid off unceremoniously. Welcome to US employment law. Strain has yet to publicly comment on why the studio was closed. He's just said in an internal email that itself was leaked, which is also pretty funny. In the email, Strain blames the studio's closure on alleged employee leaks regarding the studio's upcoming game called Project Vonnegut. It's actually kind of hilarious that this internal email was also leaked, but anyway. Strain said after Ethan Gack of Kotaku reached out to him to talk about Purtania Media, which is Possibility Space's parent company, he had a bunch of questions that he wanted some answers to. And Strain says, I was stunned to see non-public information about Project Vonnegut, disclosure of our publishing partner with details of our business and financial relationship and details of internal P&L discussions and confidential all-company meetings. So I'm closing the whole company down. Does any of that sound like something that would lead to the complete closure of the company? Like, this is all pretty basic stuff that would have come to light anyway. Like, Possibility Space were not a public body, but Purtania Media are. Like, they would have been public records eventually. Like, this is a very, very strange reason to close a company, which would suggest that there's maybe more going on here. Anyway, Strain, after disclosing this to the publishing partner expressed low confidence that they would be willing to invest the additional resources needed to complete the game, so we mutually agreed to cancel Vonnegut. Why would this suggest low confidence? It's weird. Like, there's a very strange missing information here somewhere, you know? Slide missing somewhere in this whole story. As a result of the cancellation of the publishing relationship and after careful consideration, after completely no consideration whatsoever, it really sounds like, I am closing Possibility Space. Today is your last day of employment. Get fucked. He doesn't actually say get fucked, but, you know, read between the lines here. Like, who, after careful consideration, who did he consider with? Like, there's no careful consideration here at all. This is pure spite, it sounds like. As a result of the cancellation of the publishing relationship, could you not have found a different publisher? Did you even attempt to find a different publisher? It sounds like you went, oh, well, not my problem anymore. Notably, Possibility Space closure comes just weeks after sister studio Crop Circle Games, which is also owned by Strain, shut its doors. So, yeah, this more sounds like a weird bookkeeping issue rather than a my employees revolted against me kind of thing. Either that or it really is an employees revolted against me and I took it personally thing? Which would suggest that maybe it's a good thing the studio's closing down. Anyway, there's a lot of missing information in the story, and I don't see how any of the things that are highlighted would suggest, yeah, we need to close the whole studio down right now. It seems like an incredible overreaction. Anyway, I think there'll be more coming out of that story in the future, but for now, we're down a developer that we didn't even know they were making anything. So there's the layoffs are continuing for very silly reasons. Fans considering legal action after Disney Kart Racer changes Battle Pass monetization. So this is Disney Speedstorm. It is a free-to-play games as a service type thing. It's Mario Kart but Disney characters, effectively. So Disney Speedstorm has implemented some changes to its progression that have upset fans so much that some are considering legal action. So this is developed by Gameloft. So if you're familiar or play a lot of games in the mobile space, you know Gameloft. And you know that this is kind of par for the course of this developer, but anyway, moving on. Content that was once earnable through playing the game has now been put behind a real money paywall. So you used to be able to get these kind of things just by playing the game. And now the only way to get it is to spend money, real money. So the game's paid battle pass would contain racers, upgrades, cosmetics, the usual stuff you would expect. And you used to be able to buy or earn these things with the in-game currency. And up until now, the pass itself had been purchasable with tokens, the currency. So players could conceivably access these unlocks without ever having to spend real money, but that is no longer the case. Starting on April 17th, the premium Golden Pass will only be obtainable through direct purchase. Either the $10 version or the $20 version. Because there's two prices for a battle pass now. Okay. Fuck is happening to video games? Anyway, each season will also have 2 golden passes moving forward, meaning you now have to pay twice to get everything you can unlock each season. Cool, thanks. This is some great innovation out of you there. I'm innovating new ways to take money from you. Game Law frames it this way: the trade-off is that people will be able to progress through the Golden Pass with half as much required XP, making it easier to unlock racers and items than before, by spending twice as much money. Or, here's the thought, you could just reduce the amount of XP required, and not increase the money. You could do that. You could realize it was grindy in the first place and reduce the grind. No? You could remove the grind entirely, and just get rid of the battle pass and just have people buy things they want. Or earn the things they want, which would be better. Much, much better. But anyway, no, you pay us twice now instead. Oh, okay, thanks. I will not be playing this game anymore. I'm not playing it anyway, but fuck, people who would still be playing the game, I would imagine, would be very pissed off with this. Anyway, they are in fact very pissed off because they are discussing a possible class action lawsuit, given that the language used to describe the in-game currency on the support and store pages of the game specifically note that tokens, this in-game currency, can be used to buy the Golden Pass. So their own literature, their own documentation in the support section of their site says you can use it to buy a Game Pass, Golden Pass, and as it turns out, you can't. So yeah, they could have a legal thing there. I really feel like this will be more of a pay a fine and just update their text. Or they'll update the text before April 17th and go, hey, our terms of service have updated, and by playing the game, you agree to abide by the new terms of service, which is probably what will actually happen. But anyway, yeah. Horrible monetization continues to be horrible. Moving on. Speaking of horrible monetization, you must spend $80 to unlock the King Kong glove in Call of Duty. $80 for an absolutely horrible looking cosmetic. Okay. If you want to use this melee weapon in Warzone or Modern Warfare 3, you'll need to spend nearly $100 on DLC. Incredible. So, this is the Beast Glove from the new Godzilla Kong New Empire film. This is a film tie-in thing, which usually you would expect this to be free because it's a crossover thing. They're promoting the film. It's an ad. I'm wearing an ad on my character. It's like, why am I paying for this? This should be free. Anyway, it's not free. It's $80 instead. This is a crossover, obviously, with Modern Warfare 3 and the new Godzilla film. Why does it cost $80? Because there's no actual way to buy it. It comes as a sort of complimentary thing. Complimentary when you buy a bunch of other DLC on top of it. So if you want this weird melee weapon, all you need to do is buy 4 different $20 DLC packs. You do not earn the new Kong-inspired weapon by getting kills or winning matches or anything like that. No, you get it by spending $80, effectively. It's $19.99, so it's almost $80. Instead, the Beast Glove is challenging to unlock because we live in a horrible capitalist wasteland. This is pointed out in Kotaku. If you make minimum wage, it will take you the monetary equivalent of over a day of work to actually be able to buy the damn thing. So you need to buy these 4 DLC packs, basically. And then if you happen to have all 4 of them, then you will have access to the stupid fist thing. Now, you can argue that, like, this is a fucking stupid cosmetic in the first place. It doesn't actually do anything unique or anything. There's no unique animation attached to it. You can't skin it, put camo on it, customize it in any way. It's just, that's what it looks like and that's what it is. You know, if you punch the enemy, they don't go flying across the map or anything like that. They fall down. That's it. Like, there's nothing even cool about the whole thing. But $80 if you want it. You can't customize it, and punching people doesn't send them flying or anything fun like that. A lot of people buy this stuff, which is probably the worst part about all this thing, is that, yeah, people will buy it, is the annoying part. Like, they don't put these cosmetic packs in the game unless people were buying them. So, if that's you, stop doing that. Or you're just going to see more of it. Anyway. Alright, we're going to change tacks a little bit here. Larian Publishing Director on industry layoffs. None of these companies are at risk of going bankrupt. So this is again coming from Larian. Larian's higher-ups, these are the people behind Baldur's Gate 3, have been pretty vocal about the layoffs and how they are bullshit, and it's just people, public companies, just juicing their numbers just before the end of the quarter. This is entirely all it was. Anyway, Larian Studios Publishing Director this time around, Michael Dowse, is suggesting that none of these companies are at risk of going bankrupt. This was an interview given at PC Gamer. These layoffs are an avoidable fuck up. That's all they really are. That's why you see one after the other, because companies are going, well, finally, now we can do it too. We've wanted to do it for ages, everyone else is, so why don't we? And that's really kind of sick. None of these companies are at risk of going bankrupt, they're just at risk of pissing off their shareholders. That's all it is. That's all. That's just number go up. That's it. That's all. That's apparently all the shareholders care about. I don't know. If I had shares in video game company, I would, if I was buying them, I would want the games to be good. That's it. That's the whole reason I've got the shares in it, you know? Obviously, I'm not a finance bro. Anyway, talking about how Larian, aren't having to lay off people and aren't beholden to shareholders and stuff like that. Creating the games that we wanted to make. Going public might give us more money, but it would be antithetical to the quality part of what we are trying to do. It wouldn't make our games better, it would just make us rushed. So, like, going public means taking investor money, which means now you're beholden to what the investors want instead of what you want to make as a video game. Arguing that it is... Would you make as much money staying private? No, but you would have full control over what you want to do and what game you want to make. Anyway, Larian's still being good, guys. So, continuing with the layoff ideas, IGDA calls for action on layoffs. So the IGDA, are the International Game Developers Association. This is a kind of a loose group, association, whatever, for game developers in general. Believe they are the people who host GDC every year. I think that's them. Anyway, with more than 8,700 game developers affected by layoffs this year, the gravity of this situation and its impact on the industry cannot be overstated. So, the IGDA have come up with these 6 things that studios must do going forward to sort of alleviate developers' fears for their job security, to stop developers leaving the industry entirely because of how poorly they are treated. They're just gonna go work for a bank. I'll make more money and it's job security. Boring as fuck, but at least I'll have my job. Anyway, here's their 6-point plan. Maintain short-term and long-term company and industry forecasts with an understanding that periods of accelerated growth are typically followed by periods of stagnation or even decline. The video game industry is a sine wave, for the most part. When you're developing the game, you're not making any money, right? So it's all going down. And then you release the game, and it does well. Big spike. But eventually people stop buying the game. Anyone who wanted it has it at this point, and everyone else is waiting for a price drop or isn't interested in the game, so it drops down again. At this point, at the curve point, you should be starting making your next game. Earlier than that, really. There should be overlapping sine waves, right? To the point that you never really see a drop. Because when the drop is happening, your next game is coming out. So the spike goes up again, right? And like that. That's kind of the way studios used to do it. And the problem with that is that if they did release a bad game, they wouldn't get the spike. It would stay down here. That was kind of the issue then. What's happened more recently in the video game industry is they've tried to go for things that are getting them recurring spending, recurring money. So MMOs were seen the first time, they were seen as the better one to go for, and that's why we had a lot of MMOs back when World of Warcraft was doing well, because of the subscription. That's effectively a flat line now. You're just getting subscription pay, and maybe it goes up and down as different seasons and stuff come out, different expansions and what have you. But for the most part, you're getting consistent money. The problem was MMOs are expensive to also maintain. And as you were seeing with the live services type thing, people only have so much time in their day to spend playing video games. And once they find their MMO, they're going to stick with it. And it was World of Warcraft. At the time, that's all anybody wanted to play. Now it's World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV. But at the time, it was just World of Warcraft. But there were some that have kind of kept up. EverQuest, RuneScape, some of them are still going. But a lot of them didn't go anywhere. You know, they launched and then failed very quickly afterwards. Then we jumped into DLC, monetization, cosmetics, and stuff like that. And that's kind of kept going, sort of slowly building its way up. Games as a service, battle royales, PUBG, stuff like that. People all wanted to make a battle royale because people were spending money. They were playing the game every day. So a lot of people tried to get in on that action. Fortnite happened, pretty much took over the whole thing. Nobody really does their own battle royales anymore, or anyone who does quickly finds that nobody wants to play it because they're all busy playing Fortnite. Gacha games kind of have sort of exploded a little bit now. It's just like Genshin Impact. Basically, look at whatever is popular in the mobile space right now, and then wait about a year, and you'll start seeing it making its way into console and PC games and stuff like that. That's trying to keep money coming in to the studio. Problem is they got super greedy about that. And instead of trying to just keep a flat line, they want that line to keep going up. Number go up. Remember? Number gotta go up, always. So instead of just keeping it nice, just cosmetics, maybe a DLC expansion every now and then, just to keep the studio ticking until their next game comes out. No, that's all we do now. All we do is cosmetics and DLC and shit. No new games. We made Fortnite. Done. We made it 6 years ago. No more new games. That's all we're gonna make. That's all anybody wants to do. Anyway, keep headcount reductions to a minimum. Drastically reducing headcount only helps short-term finances, which is what the whole layoff thing was in the first part of this year. Was just to juice their numbers before the end of their quarter. And is costly both in terms of team morale and in training and onboarding when those teams need to be regrown later, because they will need to be regrown because you need to ship that game. So you're going to have to hire more people, and you have to onboard and train them. Because all the people you laid off last time, they got sick of all this laying off shit and have left the industry entirely. Now you have people who don't know what they're doing. You need to train them. It's costing you way more money to do all of that than if you had just kept them on. But hey, numbers at the end of March, they gotta be big. Maintain transparent communication with your team and address concerns related to well-being and job security when raised. This will obviously not happen. But yes, you should do that. But they're not going to fucking do that, right? Anyway, support diversity initiatives and internal roles to help retain the increased diverse talent the games industry has developed over the last decade. This is sort of goes with the last 3 points. People are not going to hang around if they're not treated well. And yeah, you'll put up with it for a while because it's your passion to make video games or whatever, and you enjoy just making them. But eventually, you're going to hit the point where I'm not making enough money and I'm treated like shit. So I don't want to work for a bank or a financial institution or whatever, but they pay better and I have better job security. So I'm going to throw my dreams away because I'm not treated well enough, and I'm just going to work the boring job instead. And a lot of developers have done that. Anyway, provide ample support to departing employees to ensure their well-being and future success. Some studios do this, separation packages and so on, severance pay. Anyway, those are the points they make out, their 6-point plan. They're all good things, it's just none of them are going to happen. This is extremely annoying and extremely disappointing. Anyway, we're going to leave Children of the Sun to play in the background. Anyway, that was your news for the 8th to the 14th of April 2024. Saw some cool stuff from the III Initiative showcase. It's the first time they did a very indie-focused thing. Hopefully we'll see more of that next year, or years to come. It'll just be an annual thing. That'd be nice. Some new games, Children of the Sun, you can see there. I'm kind of interested to check out. Botany Manor, not sure why it's not on PlayStation. It's kind of weird, but I would say it's kind of weird, but I kind of do know, and it's just mostly because Sony just haven't really been courting indie devs anymore. It's been a while now that they've actually gone out and been a bit, proactive about going after indie developers. Xbox and Nintendo are just better at it now. Anyway, over on the industry bullshit side of things, Crew 2 license, the Crew 1 license just being revoked entirely. Not just are the servers down, not just is it an online only game that you can't play, now you can't even launch the thing unless you already had the executable down, and even then it won't launch in a proper state. Like, it does lay bare the whole idea that you're not buying the game, you're buying a license. And even then, you're renting the license, because it could be revoked at any time. And I don't know what needs to happen before, people with actual power can step in and do something about it. Like, it took Star Wars Battlefront, completely just shitting on the consumer for anything to happen with that. And that's because it was a big IP, because it had Star Wars attached to it. Disney got pissed off about it, took the license away from them and everything. Like, that's what it would take. Like, The Crew is a completely unique, wholly owned IP by Ubisoft. It's not particularly well known. The game itself isn't amazing or anything. There are people who enjoy it. It's a very angry community who enjoy the game. But it's not on the levels of, like, okay, Mario Kart's going away forever now. You'll never play it ever again, It wouldn't get the same kind of outcry. But it's these kind of games that are the ones that need to be preserved. Like, I don't think there's any chance that a ROM of Mario Kart won't ever be available ever again. That will always be there, whether Nintendo like it or not. That will always be there. But these kind of smaller games that not that many people know of, or not that many people are interested in, or whatever, those are the ones that disappear. And maybe it's naive to think that we can preserve all of it. We can preserve all art ever, forever and ever. But that should be the goal. Like, we shouldn't start from a position of we can't save all of them. We should be starting from a position of we can save all of them. Anyway, EA committing more studios into the salt mines for Battlefield. We'll see how it plays out for them. It's just very disappointing, as usual, that we have developers who have shown that they can make some really good stuff, and they're just being thrown at Battlefield. I guess if you like Battlefield, it's good news for you, but I don't. It's another military shooter. We don't need any more of them. Call of Duty has that sewn up. It's over. Anyway. I don't know. There's a bunch of other shit. It's all very depressing, and I don't want to go back over it. So anyway, we're going to move on. That's what's happening in the video game industry this week, but what's happening on the channel. So we have... That's the wrong button. Alright, so here's our game card, big wall of games that we're going to play, or my intention is to play them, do Let's Plays of them in 2024. We're not going to get to all of them, we're going to try to get to as many of them as I can. So this week, we finished Alone in the Dark, the new one, from Pieces Interactive, I think is the developer. I thought it was decent. There are definitely parts of it that I dislike. The combat is not great. Although learning that there was a dodge but at the end of the game was a little frustrating, considering it was pretty quick to tutorialize you on everything else, but never mentioned that there was a dodge in the game. at all. I was just standing there getting smashed by enemies. It's like, well, why can't I get away from them? Anyway, there is a dodge. Just look it up. Go in the controller layout and remind yourself where it is. Anyway, story-wise, I won't go into it too much because it is still a fairly new game. It is decent. There are some pretty cool set pieces. It doesn't wrap up great, in my opinion, but, you know, hopefully it does well enough that we get more of it. So it has a good few different endings. No worries, Melman. Thanks for dropping in. There's a good few different types of endings you can get. You obviously have the standard ending, but if you're paying attention to documents and stuff like that, you can find some alternative endings that aren't obvious. You kind of have to go out of your way to make them happen. I thought that was pretty good. You're having the two protagonists, but the story is largely the exact same for both of them. You know, there aren't a huge amount of differences between them. It's mostly just kind of dialogue and, you know, they meet different characters at different times and stuff like that. But for the most part, the set pieces are still the same. I was just looking at this trailer now. There's a big reliance on combat in that trailer. And there isn't that much combat in the game, but what is there is not great. And there's a bit of a wishy-washy stealth mechanic that, again, I don't think needed to be in the game. Anyway, it's all right. No, better than all right. It's decent. It's a decent game, but it definitely has some issues. Anyway, moving on. What have I been playing offline? So offline, off stream, whatever. I've been playing Melatonin. Melatonin is a rhythm-based game. There's 20 rhythm levels. They're all pretty straightforward. The idea is that you need to kind of look at cues in the environment to kind of figure out what the beat is. So there are assist options where it will also show you the beat, which is obviously much better, or much easier, rather. But the way the game is meant to be played is that you can't see a beat meter or what you would typically expect to see. You just have to look at the elements that are on the screen and figure out what the beat is and press the button at the time that you're expecting it to. It is a lot more immersive that way, but it is also way harder that way as well. So I did put on the accessibility thing for the first couple of goes into it because I was like, I'm not getting this at all. But yeah, eventually you do figure out what the game is going for. And I have turned off the accessibility thing now and play through it. It's still hard, but it's good. I like it. Anyway, I've also been playing Garden Life. Garden Life, a cozy simulator, as it's called. So this is another job game. I don't know why I seem to have gravitated towards job games when I'm off stream these days. Like, I started with Power Wash Simulator, and then I moved on to Hardspace Shipbreaker, and then I moved on to some eco cleanup game that I don't remember the name of. Something else in between. Anyway, and now I'm playing this Garden Life game. It's a gardening game. Like, there's not much else to say about it. You know, it's you plant flowers and you make cuttings of them and sell them to people and use the money to make a bigger garden and get new plants and that kind of thing. I've had to kind of not stop playing it, but sort of restrict my time to only doing like an hour or 2 hours, because I will just sit there and just keep playing it. Like, I can't even necessarily say I'm enjoying it, really. Just, I don't know, there's something about collecting things and getting collect all the flowers kind of thing to it. You know, there's a book that tells you how many flowers and variants of them there still are to collect and so on. I haven't got the greenhouse yet. I think that's the next thing I have to do. But, yeah, I don't know. It's cheap, and it was only €20 or something like that, so it was a cheap enough affair. Yeah, my garden doesn't look that nice either. Anyway, that's what I've been playing off stream. Anyway, next week. So next week was supposed to be this week, but I actually didn't do a whole lot of streaming last week because I was just very tired, and I'm somewhat recovered from it now. I'm still a little bit tired, but I'm working my way through it. Anyway, we're going back to our long-running series playthroughs. So Resident Evil 0 is next up on the Resident Evil playthrough. So Fully Plays Resident Evil is a series I've been doing for a while, where I've been working my way through the Resident Evil mainline series. We've done quite a few of them at this point, and Resident Evil 0 was next up. This is also the only Resident Evil I have not played. All the other ones I have played to some extent. Vast majority of them I have finished. But this one I have never even pressed start on. So this will be pretty new to me. From what I've heard, this is not great. This is most of the reason why I haven't played this. But we'll see how it works out. We'll be starting that on Tuesday. And then also going back to the other series playthrough that we were doing, which is the Final Fantasy series playthrough. So again, we've been working our way through the Final Fantasy series, starting with the pixel remasters of 1, 2, and 3, which are now finished. So we're going to move on to Final Fantasy 4 this week. 4, 5, and 6 will probably work our way through. And then I would think after that, we're probably going to start jumping around the series. I don't think I'm going to go 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. I think we're going to start jumping at that point, because I do want to get to the Final Fantasy 7 remakes soon. Before all of them are out, hopefully, before I'm too spoiled on everything. So Final Fantasies 1 to 6 I have never played. I've played all of them after that, but I've never played Final Fantasies 1 to 6. So these will all be new for me. Final Fantasy 4 was the first one released on the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom or the SNES, whatever you want to call it. It was also the first one that had like a proper kind of characters and story and stuff. Like, yes, there is technically a story in Final Fantasy 2 and 3, but not really. Not really. 4 is when, they really started actually having a story. So I'm quite looking forward to this, because I've heard some really good things about Final Fantasy 4 and Final Fantasy 6. No one really talks about Final Fantasy 5, so either it's a big black sheep or it's just overshadowed by 4 and 6. I know Final Fantasy 2 is the black sheep, and I know why now after playing it, but I've never really heard much about Final Fantasy 5. Anyway, before we get to that, though, we're going to play Final Fantasy 4. So next week, then, it's going to look like this. So Tuesday and Thursday, Resident Evil 0, and Friday and Saturday, Final Fantasy 4, and then Sunday we'll be back around with the weekly news recap. There is not going to be a stream on Wednesday, because I am planning to play some D&D with some friends. That is the plan. It didn't happen last week because, again, same reason with the streams. I was just too fucking tired. I was falling asleep. Anyway, that's it for me for today. Thanks for keeping me company, and big thanks to Melwin as well for jumping in the chat and keeping me company there as well. If you want to catch up on any of the games I mentioned, you can find Let's Plays and VODs all over on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/DoomTrain5. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can watch live, twitch.tv/DoomTrain5. Either way, hopefully I see you in chat or in the comments or something like that. But I am off for now, and see you on Tuesday for Resident Evil 0, Part 1. Bye-bye.